No? More meaning.
هاي ياسمين.
هاي كيفك؟
good. يلا راح أعمل لك
I joined من تليفوني هلا، بس لأنه الإنترنت ما بعرف إذا عندك كمان. أنا
أي بتفضلي الهوست؟
أنا
أي
أعملك
بتفضلي
خلي
الهوست، ياسمين أيسي ولا ياسمين رياضة؟
ما بعرف. أنا I'm gonna be sharing anything، ما بتفرق لا، بس بدي to introduce her بالأول to facilitate.
رح تحكي.
أنا حقلك شو the thing is، من الكمبيوتر السمع مغبش، فبركي من الفون ضل.
أي الفون؟
هيدا ماي فون اللي عم بحكي منه هلا، يعني ياسمين قيسي.
الفون أحسن؟
بس لا بتعرفي شو، ايه فيك تعملي واحد هوست واحد كو هوست، لأنه أنا من اللابتوب I'm gonna admit them.
ايه طيب عملتها. لكن وقتها تفوت برونا عم بقول بس يمكن ما يقدر يفوت، عنده انترنت عاطل.
اوكي
بس كان بيقول انا حضرني لوك دين، بس انه عندي تريننج ان بارلل، فما بعرف قد ايه حكون مركزه
لا
معكم.
لا don't worry، أنا حطيت بوجهي بعتين لها باي ايميل إنه this is our guest، فحطيتها بوجهي هيدي الشورت biography، حقراها to introduce her like parts of it،
Yes.
وحقول لهم إنه we're very glad to
You
have
to make her
you.
co-host وقتها هي تفوت على الميتنج لتقدر تعمل شير سكرين.
make
بتكتب اسمها بتعملي make co-host. اوكي
اوكي
هلا
وذر من
تعملي
لا
لي co-host، جربي. انا اسمي
هيها برونا
سجلة.
فاتت admit.
اعملي لي co-host انا.
يلا more make co-host. اوكي make co-host. عملتي co-host. I'm
Great. Hi Bruna.
Hi everyone.
كيفك؟
Hi Bruna, how are you? Make
All good, all good.
Awesome. So Yasmin will be introducing you, and she's gonna make you a co-host لحتى تقدري تعملي share screen.
عملتها already.
I think we're already recording on the cloud, by the way. Yasmin, so what if you can pause the recording now and then you can start it again after.
I'm gonna start by introducing Bruna. She's our guest for tonight. Hi Bruna, hi everyone. So Bruna is an architect by study, but she's an SDGs architect by choice and passion. She was able to design, contribute to, and facilitate many of the sustainability programs of the Lebanese network of the United Nations Global Compact, a network of businesses committed to advancing sustainability and sustainable development goals. Back in 2016, she was capable via her role in communications to enhance the brand image and value proposition of GCNN via different platforms and media channels, whether the classical or the digital. Her efforts led to her promotion, so she became programs manager, which implied that she had a strategic role in growing the network, leading the programs and establishing partnerships. During that period, the network grew from 34 members to 230 members, making it the biggest network worldwide on a per capita basis. She now liaises with major Lebanese organizations around their sustainability initiatives and works with national and international stakeholders towards achieving the 2030 agenda, including UN Women, UNDP, WFP, ministries, and others. She has had the chance to work on small-scale partnership projects, long-term ones, transformational ones, multi-stakeholder projects, and many more. So many of the projects that she has worked on were local in Lebanon. Some others were on a global level in New York and in other countries. She successfully managed many of the network's initiatives, including the Young SDG Innovators Program that aims to accelerate business innovation towards the Sustainable Development Goals and targets gender equality that aims to accelerate the pace of progress on gender equality within the private sector. So Bruna participated in multiple national and international conferences, workshops, competitions as a jury member, speaker, organizer, and has represented the network on several occasions. She worked as a marketing, PR, and corporate social responsibility consultant, delivering sustainability trainings to leading international organizations. She also worked as an SDGs expert with Project Everyone to democratize knowledge and to educate more people about the SDGs during the 75th United Nations General Assembly. So Bruna, as an activist, particularly interested and involved in topics related to youth, gender, inequality, and was featured in Amika George's latest book, Make It Happen, How to Be an Activist. In December 2019, she was selected to represent the Middle East in the Youth Power Panel, led by Restless Development, Project Everyone, and Action for Sustainable Development, to ensure that youth are being represented, included, and meaningfully engaged. So we are really happy to have you with us, Bruna, today. And I'm sure everyone is looking forward to learn a lot from you and to listen to all you have to offer us. So I'm going to leave the stage to you. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure.
Bruna, if you could just unmute, I think you're mute.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay, that's great. So thank you, Yasmin, for this introduction. I really look forward to this informal talk, let me say it, where we'll get the chance to discuss some of the SDG topics that you like and really share some thoughts. And at the end of the session, perhaps ask some questions and have a discussion with all of you. I have a couple of slides that I would like to share with you. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. So if I may start with a little bit of an introduction, I know that all of you are very familiar with the SDGs by now, how it started. You also have your favorite SDGs, you're working on it, you're developing your ideas and business plan. I'm pretty sure about this, but let me just go with you over how the SDGs were created, just to get a certain sense of why this very special moment in 2015 is critically important. So before creating the SDGs, we used to have the Millennium Development Goals before the year 2015, starting by the year 2000. And just for you to know that before everything that started, we had extreme poverty that declined because of the MDGs from 1.9 billion to 836 million. And remember those numbers that I'm telling you, because that will end us to a certain topic at the end. We had a very high mortality rate, maternal mortality rate. We had HIV infections that fell approximately by 40% between 2000 and 2013, which now reminds us maybe of the COVID pandemic as well. So the MDG framework, it really guided the world back then, but people and world state members, they realized that there is something missing and there is something that needs to change. So in 2015, they also realized that we have a lot of gaps when it comes to gender equality, when it comes to climate change, to all the environmental degradations. We have a lot of conflicts, and yet we still have 800 million people that still live below the poverty line. So as much as the MDGs focused on the relationship between the environment and the society, that was not really enough. So in 2015, all 193 member states of the UN, they gathered together to come up with this new agenda and framework with major NGOs, civil societies. They did a lot of workshops, webinars, consultations, whether on the regional level or international level. And 4.5 million people, they were involved in this process to basically come up with this new strategy and this new agenda. Um, I'm sorry, 4.5 million people, they were surveyed, and around 5 million people were involved in this process. And after this entire process, we came up, and people came up basically in 2015 with the agenda, the 2030 agenda, and what we have now, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that have a more universal um, form that feature more and more human rights at the center of the agenda, that heal and secure the planet, that achieve gender equality, amongst many other things. So why am I saying this? It's because, first of all, 2030 is in 9 years. And just the same process that we had back in 2015, with all the people having a say in this new framework, we, in 9 years, we, all of us in this Zoom call, will be part of the 8.5 billion voices that will be shaping this new agenda. So it's very important for us to understand at this point how basically the SDGs function. What does it take for us as individuals to implement the SDGs? And what does it take as a society to implement the SDGs? So whenever we talk about the 2030 agenda, this is not something that is done on an individual level, or some people might say that it is solely for people at a very high level, ministries, all the discussions that happen during the high level political forum and other events. That is completely not true, because it also involves social entrepreneurs, universities, schools, businesses, NGOs. And you've probably heard about everything happening around you at the university or on other levels. But during this specific talk, I would like to shed a little bit more light on the role of businesses and how businesses, they contribute to the SDGs, because later on, all of you will be employed and will be working with companies, hopefully, that are sustainable. And businesses really are held accountable for the implementation of this agenda, and not only other entities such as ministries or maybe high-level entities. And it is very important for us to always remember something, that the 2030 agenda is very interconnected. So whenever we're talking about peaceful and inclusive societies, so let's say that, or even education, universities should focus on SDGs because it's very important for education. Let us not forget that education is also linked to inequalities. And whenever we're treating inequalities, we're also working on infrastructures. Infrastructures will then lead to growth and employment. Growth and employment will also have an impact on energy and poverty and hunger and health. So that is the specificity of this agenda, is that all the SDGs are interconnected. And just like one entity cannot be working alone for the SDGs, one entity could not be working on one particular SDGs. So it has to have a holistic view of them and not have a very particular view on some of them. So now with the COVID-19 crisis, as the Secretary General said, the COVID-19 is an economic crisis, it's a social crisis, and it's a human crisis. It is not something that is only related to health. And now more than ever, we need bold actions. We need people stepping up to really fight the things that we are facing right now, like, for example, the gender gap pay, women and men getting paid at organizations. If we continue at this rate, we need 257 years to close this gap. We still have 8 million tons of plastics in our ocean. We have more than 150 million children suffering from child labor. We are still fighting climate action. We are required to have a global temperature of 1.5 degrees. At this rate, this is not going to happen. And we have a lot of species that are facing extinction. So what is the role of businesses? corporate social responsibility. Raise your hand if this topic is extremely familiar to you and if you know it. Raise your virtual hand. I can't see hands raised. All
So
right.
you could just press like the virtual hand so Bruna could, or you could send on the chat if this is familiar. So Sabika raised her hand.
Perfect.
And so we have two people who are familiar with this topic.
That is great. And for those of you who are not familiar with corporate social responsibility, later on, whenever you're going to be employed at a business, they're going to come and tell you, we are leading in the industry that we are. We also are committed and we have a department that is specialized in corporate social responsibility. And that is our competitive advantage. And this is why you should be employed with us and not our competitors. But what does it mean? So basically, businesses before, and even before the 2030 agenda, they used to operate just for the sake of the dollar value. So they had a product to sell, they had a service to sell, but they didn't really have values, they didn't really have ethics, and they didn't have a responsibility, whether towards the environment, towards the society that we live, towards the people, towards the employees themselves. So here came the concept of corporate social responsibility. It's basically to ensure that companies, they are taking concrete action to be sustainable and to implement the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or at least most of them, into their organizations, to also report on the progress. So it doesn't really suffice by saying, yes, we do care about the environment, we want to know, and people, they want to know, they want to read their report at the end of the year, and they want to make sure that this company is really taking action to fight climate action and climate change, and is really stepping up and doing some actual work on the ground. So, as I said, business as usual is not something that is valid in 2021. Whenever we have a business, just like you right now, writing your business plans for your ideas, you're obviously thinking about how to make it sustainable, how to make it fall within the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And you should also know that there are companies who are also day and night fighting and learning how to do so within their own corporations. Because one, the SDGs, they will never be implemented and enhanced without the help of the businesses, because the businesses, they are a huge chunk of the GDP of the country. So if the country prospers, if the country, the economic situation is good within a country, it's because the businesses, they are in a good shape. And if the businesses, they are not, this will lead to a bad implementation of the SDGs, and then we will not have time to implement the 2030 agenda. And whenever we are implementing the SDGs within businesses, this creates more employment opportunities, it creates more technology and innovation within businesses, and later on we're going to see how, and it also creates more opportunities. So the businesses that are sustainable, that do have a CSR plan, are the businesses that are selling more and the businesses that are doing more than their competitors. So here, I'm not going to go into details about how businesses, basically, they are being sustainable, but just so you know, innovation is not only centered around your project and around like social entrepreneurship and youth doing projects and it's just ideas. No. Innovation is actually being implemented into the businesses, and businesses, they are taking a bold step about it. And here comes the UN Global Compact. As you heard from Yasmin, I've been working for 5 years at the local chapter, the Lebanese chapter of the United Nations Global Compact. And basically, what is it? So back then, I don't know if you know this guy, this is Kofi Annan. He said one day, you know what? We are asking businesses to be sustainable and to have CSR within their faces, but the SDGs are just an idea, and we really need a human face to this idea. So we need to guide businesses, we need to teach them, we need to help them. We need to help all the employees working at any level of companies how to actually be sustainable. And this is how the Global Compact was born. The Global Compact basically is a UN entity that deals strictly with businesses into 4 areas. So human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. And worldwide, we have more than 10,000 companies committed to sustainability and the SDGs working with the Global Compact. So as soon as this company joins the Global Compact, we do a lot of surveys. We ask really the companies, what are you working on? And we realized that 84% of the companies are really taking action on the SDGs. And 90% of the companies, they already have incorporated the policies on the 10 principles into their organization. So let us say that a company joins the Global Compact, and one of the things is to have an equal pay between men and women within the company. If a company is committed to the SDGs and to the 10 principles, then this company changes its policies from scratch and comes up with policies that they respect human rights, gender equality, and inequalities in general. And here is a little glimpse of the goals that are being tackled by the companies. As you can see, one of the goals that is really tackled by businesses is decent work and economic growth. And then comes gender equality, good health, and well-being. And that could potentially help you with your projects later on to really see what businesses care about. Because as part of the as part of the CSR work of the businesses as well, businesses, they are really interested in youth. They are really interested in incubations and accelerators. They really want to support ideas, and especially ideas that emerge from youth. And it's very important for you to really understand where the businesses, where's the mind of the businesses. So this graph really shows you the interests. So as you can see, for example, businesses are really interested in responsible consumption and production. So if you come up with a solution that tackles the specific SDGs, that could potentially later on be funded by one of the businesses. One of the examples of businesses advancing the SDGs is the famous company Unilever, with the CEO Paul Polman back then. Now they have a new CEO. But basically, Unilever, as part of their CSR program, they said that by 2020, we will help more than 1 billion people take action to improve their health and well-being. And then this is how my company, as Unilever, will be contributing to the 2030 agenda later on, by taking steps within their own communities, by taking steps within their own businesses. Another example would be Nestle as well. They developed an action plan on women in the cocoa supply chain in Côte d'Ivoire. So as you know, they have a lot of chocolates, Nestle, a lot of people usually, we also have their CEOs sit on a lot of panels and discussions discussing about the labor, the women who work at Nestle, the supply chain when it comes to everything that has to do with getting the cocoa to the entire chain to making the chocolate. So it's very important to have human rights policies, to respect the women, say no to child labor, not to have child. You know that in Côte d'Ivoire, this is something that they really fight on a daily basis, child labor, and even women treated badly to manufacturing the product And then when they are manufacturing the product, if the packaging is going to be sustainable, if it's going to be even more plastic that will go into the ocean or not. So really, it's an entire holistic system approach. So at the Global Compact, there's a specific program that that I still manage for the second time this year, and it's the Young SDG Innovators Program. And I'm going to tell you about it just to tell you that businesses, they are also very keen on engaging the people working with them. So what we do at this program, during this program, basically, each and every business, they select 3 to 4 people aged under 35 working at their own organizations to learn more about the SDGs, to learn how to see gaps related to the SDGs, but within their businesses. And then they come up with a product, they come up with a solution to tackle this specific problem with the help of mentors, with the help of experts, just like you're doing, but in a corporate sector. So we call them intrapreneurs rather than entrepreneurs. So those entrepreneurs could be you in the future if you basically select a business that is socially responsible, that is really engaging with the SDGs. But most importantly, as we can see more and more, is that the future of work, and especially now with the pandemic, is really changing. So a lot of the skills that you are using today and that you are learning today, you will be using them within your own corporations to basically make a change within your community, your local community, and within the business where you are working. So those statistics, they are taken from the World Economic Forum report. It's all about the future of work. And it says that you need critical thinking, problem solving skills, and everything. And everything, they do fall, if you come and think about it, they do fall under the 2030 Agenda and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Because whenever you are enhancing your employees, whenever you are working towards their personal development, this is how you are also developing your business. If the business is developed, then the community is developed. If the community is developed, then the world will be in better shape to basically implement the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. So in a nutshell, how to make a change happen within the Global Compact or within businesses in general. And for me, this is basically the framework to making change in general. So first and foremost, it's all about raising awareness. So whether in your own local communities, after this program, it's very important to raise awareness on the SDGs, to let people know more and more about this framework, because really it's a blueprint. So whenever you are lost, whenever you don't know how to do something that is related to the SDGs, just remember that the SDGs, they are not just an idea, it's a very scientific idea. So having targets and indicators, the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda is something that is very scientific because you can track it and you can monitor the progress. And one of my personal experiences during the General Assembly, the last one, I was working with Project Everyone basically to look at the targets and the indicators of each and every SDG and track the progress. So it's a very lengthy process with many stakeholders, but it's a very scientific process because you can see something that is tangible and you can really see if we are on track. But this cannot be done without the help of all the stakeholders, all the people who have the data, the businesses, and all the stakeholders that I mentioned before. It's also important to shed light on capacity building. So capacity building means the workshops, all the workshops that you do, but also capacity building on a personal level. Like I know that it's, I think 7 o'clock your time, and you are dedicating time to come and listen to those workshops. But really the professional development aspect, whether you are doing it as university students now, later on as employees, is something that is really important because the more you educate yourself, the more you will be able to make a change. Recognizing leadership, for me, it's very important as well to, and in the Global Compact, to basically promote people who are actually making a change through all the competitions and everything that happens on a regional and international level. Policy dialogue and multi-stakeholder partnerships. As of experience, nothing happens with one single organization. Just like this program, it is done with many partners and stakeholders. And this is the secret for an enhanced implementation for the SDGs at any level, whether it's a single project that you are doing or it's a big one. Having multiple partners, having a lot of stakeholders, and having discussions and dialogues with them is what will make it happen. So I still have, okay, I'm not going to be very long. I still have 5 minutes. So last but not least, I want to end up with something. So in January 2019, I was selected to join a panel of 12 people from around the world and representing the Middle East mainly. This panel is led by Restless Development and Project Everyone. And basically, we are all young people who have just one goal, try to make a change within our communities and talk and discuss more about the SDGs within our local communities. And this is a very tangible, if you want, tangible outcome of the work that we have been trying to do. We approached Unilever because Unilever, they do believe in youth. They do believe in the power of young people and what they have to bring to the table. And later on, they requested if we do hackathons with young people, 6 hackathons across the globe, to see the young people, what they have to say, to see if they have any ideas related to the SDGs that they would like to implement. And I'm sharing this idea just to let you know that really the private sector and companies that are committed to CSR really care about what the young people have to say and have the funding for the projects of the private sector. So maybe some of you now will come up with ideas, will come up with solutions that will be funded by one of the companies. So my advice would be to really keep an eye on all the initiatives that are being done, whether in your countries or internationally, and basically just know that the private sector is really has a focus on what you have to say and the experience and the expertise of the youth. This is one. 2, it's very important for you to be engaged with communities, online communities that care about the topics that you care about. So at the Youth Power Panel, we used to make a lot of, we still do a lot of meetings, a lot of webinars about specific topics. So advocacy and campaigning is the road to change. So really, if you believe in something, if you have something around the SDGs that you want to showcase to the entire world, it's very important to keep working on yourself, to really know where you want to be and who you want to be surrounded with. Because those meetings and those personal development opportunities are the ones that are going to push you to go further into your idea and to go further as a person and as a young people. And last but not least, I'm going to share this slide with you. And this is something that I always remind myself. And it says, any society that does not succeed in tapping into the energy and creativity of its youth will be left behind. So basically, young people, I'm 27, so I consider young people, we do have the solutions, we have the knowledge, but most importantly, we have the energy and we have the creativity. And this is what the private sector and what many stakeholders involved in the implementation of the 2030 agenda lack. So we need to know our competitive advantage. We need to know what we have. Yes, we are not talking in roundtable discussions with ministers, with high-level people, but we have something that they don't have. And this is what we need to focus on. This is what we need to work on, what we need to leverage on, and what we need to keep nourishing with time through accelerator programs, through meetings, through webinars, through reading a lot, and even through being active within our communities, through being the own leader of SDGs within our own communities, schools, universities, even the workplace later on, because that is the only way to really implement and enhance the implementation of the 2030 agenda. So this is it for me. We're going to see if you have any questions, any comments. I'm happy to answer anything that you have.
Thank you so much, Bruna. Thank you so much, Bruna. It was really interesting, and I couldn't agree more with everything you said, especially that I worked in Unilever for 3 years. So the private sector does have a lot to offer, and more importantly, the youth are our only way out, basically, from everything happening around us right now. So, and this group of students are particularly interested in SDGs and development. So I'm sure they will be like having a lot of questions. So anyone that has a question, feel free to like just unmute yourself and ask it, or just send it on the chat and I can read it to Bruna. It can be related to SDGs, her experience, any advice you need from her. So yeah. Okay.
Oh, maybe I can go.
Yeah, okay.
So Bruna, like, how does it feel to actually like work with a lot of private sector players and see that you are sort of trying to show them how to be more responsible and more embracing of the SDGs? How does it feel based on your experience with GCNL, etc.?
To be very honest with you, now it is more challenging. And how does it feel on a very personal level? I feel very proud to be working with such companies, and especially companies that we encounter on a daily basis in our community, companies that we don't really know that they are doing this in the background. And whenever you know that a certain product, a certain makeup product that you use is being done in a very sustainable way, whether the packaging or maybe the entire supply chain, for you as a person, as a consumer, your point of view will be very different when using such products than the normal products. And you would feel proud that you're basically contributing to making a change within your communities. Because I'm going to take the example of Lebanon. The private sector plays a major role in the economy of Lebanon. And when you hear of major companies and organizations working on sustainability within their companies, this is really satisfying. And this, on a personal level, gives you more encouragement, basically, to keep advocating for this topic. Hope I answered the question.
Great.
Thank you, Bruna. So I want to ask you a question myself as well. So I'm currently working on market research and business development with Riyada, and my previous roles in the past have like involved SDGs at certain points. So do you believe that moving forward we need to still refer to CSR as CSR, corporate social responsibility, as a separate part of the business, or like from my experience, some people do recommend not calling it CSR anymore and having like the SDGs at the core of the business as part of the business plan, so that there's a return on investment by itself. So what would you recommend moving forward given your experience?
100%. And whenever we talk about corporate social responsibility, back then it used to be directly linked, and we still see it in some of the companies and corporations, to the marketing department, which is, for me and for many experts in the field of sustainability, very wrong, because the SDGs, they should be the framework for all the businesses, for all the departments at a business, and not a particular department. So there shouldn't be like a CSR department working specifically on this topic, but rather there should be guidelines to use the SDGs in the marketing department, research and development department, everything that has to do with the sales, with the production as well. So the SDGs should be a framework. And this is particularly true not only within businesses, but also with ministries and with the government. So, for example, in Lebanon in 2018, we wrote the first voluntary national review, the VNR. And the VNR is a document that countries, they do present to the UN to show the progress, to show the initiatives that are done on country level. But what is more important is that whenever a country submits a VNR, the country itself is now obliged to have the SDGs within all the decrees and policies of the country. So just like on a governmental level, whenever we have a law, it should be under specific SDGs. This exactly applies to businesses and departmental businesses. So we are moving and shifting from corporate social responsibility to a more holistic vision of the SDGs and the 2030 agenda, and really have it's the blueprint of the private sector, it's the framework of the private sector, and all the departments should be following this framework instead of having it as a separate entity, for sure.
Thank you, Bruna. So we have two questions in the chat. I'm going to read them for you. So Sabika is asking, it seems that many middle or small-sized companies are still largely unaware of SDGs being only 9 years away. For them, small CSR initiatives are good enough. In your opinion, where are the gaps in communicating these goals to the corporate sector at every level?
Yes. So the gaps in communication, first of all, let's not be very hard on ourselves. SDGs, they were created only in 2015. So to start advocating for them, we need more time, but definitely more and more companies are aware of the SDGs for a very particular reason, actually. And I was reading it the other day, is because people are being exposed to the SDGs from school level and university level before actually entering to the workplace. So yes, we have some people being exposed to the SDGs in the workplace, but a lot of them are being exposed even after. And this is where all the educational entities step in. This is the role of to advocate for it, but also it's the role of UN agencies, the role of us as individuals. There is a gap in communication, and I really do blame this on, personally, on the large organizations. I think that whenever someone is exposed to something that gives the company a return on investment, I think it's a personal duty to share it with the world. There is a lot of events happening around the SDGs. More and more we are hearing about them, but there must be a coalition or something that is being done on a more global scale from people that experience the SDGs, businesses that already experience the SDGs, teaching other businesses, particularly SMEs, on the added value and how to actually apply the SDGs within their own businesses. Chris, do you think?
So there's another question by Christelle. Do you think that some businesses in the private sector use SDGs not in the right way? Quoting her, like using them to increase marketing, etc. I don't know if you got my point.
Yes, this is called greenwashing. Yes, there is a lot of companies working on the SDGs for the sole purpose of marketing. I do believe about it, but I also do believe that we as consumers working with those businesses, the more that we teach ourselves, the more we are exposed to the SDGs and sustainability topics and issues, the more we gain knowledge to differentiate between businesses that are really doing good and businesses that are doing good for the sole purpose of marketing. So here comes our individual responsibility towards those businesses and the UN entities like the Global Compact. You know, we do have a due diligence process. We don't accept any company. We really screen the companies and we screen the work that they are doing. And you can spot the impact that they are doing in their CSR report that they produce at the end of every year. So whenever you're reading about the impact, make sure to check the numbers, make sure if the company is really making an impact or is only using it for marketing purposes.
So does anyone else have any question? Even if it's like anything that comes to your mind related to the presentation or not, you can ask it. So Crystal asked, I'm not sure, Iman, Lina, Muhammad, any of you have any questions for Bruna? Bruna, I also wanted to ask you, with everything happening around us right now, I know the SDGs are more important than ever, but I feel like businesses are struggling to survive and they don't have like the luxury of really like thinking, going that far to think about making like the community a better place. Like they just need to survive. So what would be your advice to all our entrepreneurs? So it's a really hard time for students to be graduating, looking for jobs, creating ideas, opening startups. So um, just as a just like what are your thoughts on this before we wrap up in case none of them have questions?
Yes. First of all, do not think of the SDGs as a luxury. Think of them as a necessity and as a base for any project. And second of all, this is not something that I'm personally saying. Studies have shown that the only businesses that will survive and thrive the crisis and the environment that we live in are the sustainable businesses. So yes, now it might seem like the situation is very harsh on us, but we need to think on the long run. We need to think years from now, who will be within the market. It's not companies that are thinking of short-term actions and short-term ROI. It's the companies that are really thinking on the long run. Not only, I'm not talking about sustainable products, but having sustainable mechanisms without their organizations, companies that are really agile, innovative, thinking outside of the box, maintaining their workforce, and everything that I'm talking about now really lies within the 2030 agenda. So think of the 2030 agenda as a framework and as a base and as a route for your sustainability as a business on the long run rather than just now as a short term.
Thank you, Bruna. So Christelle is telling you give us some hope, Bruna.
Hopefully.
So thank you so much for your time. We really enjoyed the presentation. I'm sure everyone did too. Many of them messaged me privately saying that it was really interesting. We are really looking forward to seeing what all of them will come up with and as they get into the working world. And we are very grateful that you gave us some of your time. So if none of you have any questions, we will be wrapping up with Bruna. I'm not sure, Bruna, if you want to say like one last word, but thank you. Like I even personally, I really enjoyed it, even if I was in the field. And so this was really beneficial and thank you so much. So if you have like any final words before we wrap up, that would be it.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. I'm just going to comment on what Christelle said, that you give us so much hope. Don't think that I always wake up in the morning and I say that I want to be working on the SDGs. I want to make the world a better place, and this is going to happen. I'm 100% sure. But I also get demotivated. I also know that we are facing a lot of crisis, whether it's the COVID, whether it's the economic crisis, everything that is surrounding us. But I just want you to remember the power that you have within you, the power that you have from the bedroom that you are now sitting in. So there are lots of people in this world who changed the world by just a simple idea that came out when they were in their bedroom. So really take all the opportunities that you can, whether it's in this program or other opportunities. Teach yourself more, know more, because the more that you know, the more that you will be able to give to the society that you live in. And the more you learn, the more hope you will get in return. Thank you so much, Yasmin. Thank you, Mona, for your invitation. It's a real pleasure to be with you. And I'm really looking forward to see the end result of this.
Thank you, Bruna, and thank you, everyone. So that will be it, unless you have anything else to ask Bruna. I think that will be it, and I will be ending the meeting. Thank you so much, Bruna. We really needed this, and hopefully in 2030 we'll be having this meeting with a different mindset, in a different situation, and better days will come. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.